Teddy Covers coming to us live from Las Vegas. And Teddy, I came in on Monday morning in a big rut, and you said some great things to me, and the chat helped, and I'm sitting here 9-3 plus 6.61 units over Monday, Tuesday, and I was thinking about you last night. Your words of wisdom. You help us from a capping perspective, but you also help us just from a life perspective. And I was thinking about you last night when I was actually smiling for the first time in a little bit. So wanted to start with that. Teddy Covers, welcome to the show. Great to see you on this Wednesday morning.
I really appreciate that, Jimmy. Thank you. Because and there's two factors. Because one, I got my ass kicked last night, so I'm glad somebody won. Just about everybody I know didn't have a good night last night, so I'm glad that you came out victorious. And I'm also glad to see after you take a punch. That's what this business is, okay? You're going to take punches. When you take a punch, you got to punch back. And it's good to see you getting back in the winning column over the last couple of days. Kudos, Jimmy. But we spend so much time breaking down games, handicapping matchups and situations and point spreads. And we don't spend enough time talking about ourselves and our lives and how to make this stuff work and how to keep sane through the insanity. And to talk about that at least somewhat when I get the opportunity. I'm glad that some of the words that I said, because Lord knows sometimes I need that advice myself. I'm glad some of the stuff I said was able to resonate with you, Jimmy, and kudos. I'm glad you won again last night. Good for you.
Yeah, felt good. 1-1 in NBA, but just a slight profit because of the plus lines. And then 2-0 in college basketball to start at the year, 2-0 in NHL. Felt great. Kristen Walsh has a very interesting question that I will get to. But first, perfect timing for us to talk NBA after having Junior Brown. I've locked in my plays. Big 9-game card in NBA. How are you handling it?
So I thought Junior was excellent. That was really good analysis. I was impressed with how he was talking. That being said, I'm against him on one play and with him on one play, and then one that I don't even know. That I'm not convinced that you guys are on, or at least I didn't hear you talking about it in that part of the show. I played the Philadelphia 76ers plus 2.5. That line's no longer available. At 2, I think it's worth it. Philly's better than Utah. Okay, that's my handicap for the game. Philly is better than Utah. The Jazz are supposed to be all that. The Mike Conley transition is not working well. Okay, it may get there. It will get there. I'm confident it'll get there. It's not there yet. And when you look at the Jazz so far, the Jazz have 2 point spread covers this year. They covered against Sacramento, and they covered against the Clippers without Kawhi in a no-show game for LA. That's it. I'm not sold on Utah being all that right now. And Philly off a loss with Embiid back in the lineup and catching points to me was too. I mean, that's what I looked at it. I double checked to make sure I knew, did Philly sweep them last year? Yes, they did, and boom. I mean, that was one that I bet pretty quickly after examining it. I was excited about the prospect. So I'm on the other side of that one. I agree with the Raptors tonight, 100%. First quarter, first half, full game. Sacto off back-to-back wins. Sacto against a team that's playing defense. Toronto off a bad loss to Milwaukee. I mean, all the spots point towards the Raptors here. I wouldn't argue any way you want to get to Toronto tonight. To me, that seems like a clear choice. And again, there's still 7.5s out there. Yeah, there's 7.5s out there, which I thought the money would come on the favorite, and the money came on the dog, which surprised me a little bit in that one. Although the Kings have played better the last couple of games, I'm not convinced that their winning streak has anything to do other than with the Knicks just no showing. And the third one, I laid 2 with Atlanta tonight. I'm not convinced that the Bulls are going to get off the mat, from the way they melted down in the fourth quarter. That's a tough spot for Chicago on the second of back-to-backs. And when Trae Young's in the lineup, the Hawks are winning and covering, period. And as far as I'm concerned, right, I understand Collins is out, and I understand that Chicago won both meetings in Atlanta last year, yada, yada. Right now, the Hawks, even without Collins, I mean, we saw another bye last night, and I was like, well, I don't know, maybe. No. Hawks are a bye team, and I bought them at -2 against the Bulls in what looks to me like a real tough spot for Chicago to get up for. Like that's a 3. I made 3 plays.
Like those looks on the Sixers for Teddy, and And I understand it. I understand that spot. And I understand also what Junior Brown said. And Junior Brown is only on the first quarter, first half, which I thought was interesting, and the first half under. That's a very interesting game I'm going to spend more time with in the afternoon. Teddy also on the Raptors. That makes Teddy, Junior Brown, and myself on the Raptors. I like seeing that. And then he's on the Hawks. And I still want just to watch this Hawks Bulls team. I'm very confused with both of these two teams right now, so I'm just going to sit back and watch. But man, Teddy, the low in NHL and NBA, I tried to have a very low amount of plays early in the year, and now I'm sitting here 14-7 in NBA with like a 36% ROI, and it just feels good. Not putting too much, because I have a problem with quantity, and I've been curtailing it since you've joined the show, and you've helped in many, many, many different ways. There you have NBA from Teddy Covers. Teddy, thoughts on last night's NCAA basketball card?
I didn't turn the TV on.
Oh, beautiful. I get it.
I mean, I shouldn't say that. I didn't watch a minute of college hoops last night. Nor, I mean, again, as I said yesterday, I'm going to ease. What I did last night, actually, I had a long conversation with one of the guys who I rely on early in the season for college hoops, and he gave me 4 teams. And those are 4 teams that I will pay attention to. And I've got another conversation today with another guy that I'm going to say, give me a handful of teams to pay attention to. And that's going to be my college basketball for the next couple of weeks. You want the 4 teams, though. I know you do. You want them?
I want them badly.
Yeah. This is a guy whose opinion we trust. You know, this is someone I've been working with for many years. 4 teams, 4 opinions. Auburn bet against, Nebraska bet against, Michigan bet against, USF bet on. That's it. I'll read them again. Auburn, bad. Nebraska, overrated. Michigan, drop off. USF, bet on. That's it.
I love it.
That's what I'm thinking about in college hoops right now. And what I'll do, let me just say, I'm not, okay, this guy told me to look at these teams, therefore I'm going to bet. No. What you do is instead of trying to attack 351 teams in the middle of a time where I'm working on NFL and college football and NBA, and you guys are working on hockey every day. No, I'm attacking 4 teams, and I'm going to pay attention to these 4 teams, and I'm going to get another 4 today, or another handful. However, I don't know how many, because hey, give me a couple, and I'll watch a small group of 10. Then if I see something, then I'm like, yeah, spot on. Those are the ones that I'll be getting involved with early, very early, this week, next week. And then that repertoire slowly starts to expand. All right, we get 4, we get 8, then we get 16. All right, now we got 30 teams we're looking at. Now we got 40, now we got 50. Now it's Thanksgiving. Now we're ready to go in college hoops. That's the way I do it.
I love it. I love learning your process. It's a huge asset for us, and it makes so much sense. We had a question from Christian Walsh right away, and and it's an interesting one. He said, Teddy, how do you do your power rankings in college basketball?
I don't. I rely on others. In order to create accurate college basketball power rating numbers by hand, because I make my power ratings by hand. I'm not pumping out a formula and pumping out an algorithm and, all right, they're spitting out numbers to me. I make my adjustments manually every week, and that means I go through every NBA box score every night. I go through every NFL box score and every college football box score. I can't do that in college hoops. There's no physical way to do it, so I rely on others to do that for me, and I use the math, the algorithms that are out there. It's physically impossible to do that by hand. If you want to do it, it's doable, but you got to create a formula. You're going to data dump from all these different sources and box scores, and there's all kinds of different things you can use to create those numbers. I find the work necessary to putting in to create them isn't worth the effort when you can find the numbers elsewhere. That the Sagarin numbers are good. There are plenty of good numbers out there that you can use, and I like to use a couple of different numbers. The Gold Sheet numbers are good. They're good. They're a good handful of publicly available numbers that you can find for college hoops that are worth using, in my opinion. That beats the work of going through every box score and recap of every game. That is just not realistic for someone that is doing other things. If you're living college hoops, you can absolutely do it, and you should do it. And you should make a lot of money every year in college hoops, but you have to live it. And that means, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, full-time gig, college hoops. It's doable, but it's that type of effort. It's not even you can't say it's a 40-hour-a-week job. It's not an 80-hour-a-week job. It's a all-day, everyday job. And if you do it for 5 months, you should make money over the course of the college basketball season, but it's a heck of a ride.
Yeah, it's so difficult to keep track of all of those teams. Let's move on quickly.
I got to ask you, Jimmy, real quick.
Yeah.
What did you think of the college hoops last night? Because I didn't see it. I didn't turn it on.
It's funny. It's funny you asked me that because I was so deep in that Hornets Pacers game.
Me and you both, brother. What a game! What do you think? We got to talk about that because you and I were on opposite sides of that contest. The lineup that Borrego put out there in the fourth quarter, he'd never used before, and they freaking caught fire. It was insane. They hit everything. Charlotte deserved to win that game. They played better. They played insane down the stretch. But from that lineup to get that production down the stretch, and then of course the free throw disparity wasn't something that amused me very much. 42-7, was it?
42-7. It was ludicrous. It was just ludicrous. I felt very fortunate seeing that run in the fourth quarter. I wasn't sitting there going, see. I felt very fortunate to come away with it. So you know what? I was following all the scores, and one thing that I need to do is I need to trust you in college football, and we have Max on our late shows in college basketball, because if I try to reach in these two sports, I'm going to fail. And that's what happened to me the first year I came down here. I tried really hard capping college basketball and college football, and I just failed. And so I'm really trying to bite off enough that I can chew it and swallow it. And so at this point, I'm really going to lean on the experts that we have on the show and the experts that we have in the chat and do my best work to put money in people's pockets in NHL and NBA. And that's how I'm going to be handling things. And Elliot V says, in Teddy, we trust. We have a quick question before we go into college football. And then I'm going to first go over Teddy's plays for the week. But we have a quick question from our Guillermo Zertucci. He says, I'm on, Jimmy, flying to Oakland tomorrow to see my Raiders. What is Teddy's take on the game? Chargers, Raiders. Raiders open up at -1.5. They're now at +1 or +1.5. This total is sitting here at 49, up from a 47.5 opener at Pinnacle. The Chargers look like the team we thought they were going to be. They really did for the first time all year. And I know they always get off to slow starts, but this start was so slow, we thought maybe it would never come. Teddy covers Chargers, Raiders.
No, that's not what we saw from the Chargers, in my opinion. What we saw from the Chargers is an opponent who was dead flat, and the Chargers, okay, they won the game. Chargers should have won that game 53-0, dude. Green Bay literally didn't show up. The Chargers aren't good enough to do that. The week before, how would they win? Missed field goal. There's a thought process in the betting markets. And it's very clear when you look at how this money's moved. And as I talk to people around Vegas this week, all I've heard is, oh, here come the Chargers. Here, the Chargers went, 7-1 and 6-2 straight up the last 2 years over the back half of the season. The second half team, here come the Chargers. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it even a little bit. Oakland's the better of these two teams. They're catching points at home on Thursday night. The other team's got to travel. I mean, when you watch the Raiders' offense, they're balanced. They're good in the red zone. These are not things that the Chargers are balanced, but the red zone executions come and go. Defensively, Oakland's numbers haven't been good, except for one area. They're pretty good against the run. They've been lit up by opposing passing games. They're pretty good against the run. Chargers' offense only works when they're balanced. When it's Rivers chucking the football downfield, it's not working that well so far this season. I am a little bit concerned about Oakland's offensive line injuries. Hudson wasn't right yesterday. Brown wasn't right yesterday. I do think both guys are going to play. And the fact they were limited in practice is not good, but the fact that they practiced is good. I think the Raiders are a gift. I took Oakland. I put Oakland in my pocket. I advise my clients to do the same.
Wow, that's very, very exciting take on the game. Joe Rich Ramirez says, "Man, that was great." He believes in what you are saying. Says, me either. I don't believe the Chargers, Mr. Covers. There we go. Backing the Raiders. Let's get into college football. On Monday, that's the wrong sheet here. On Monday, we got Temple, Oregon State, Wake Forest, and Illinois. Then we were wondering if you were going to get to the window with Minnesota and Iowa. Have you?
I have not got the window with Iowa and Minnesota. I keep dawdling on Minnesota. I haven't got there. I did make one play, and I locked in already. And geez, the 7s are out there with Minnesota. So let me do this. All right. I'm going to lock in on Minnesota because I'm going to bet that as soon as I get off the show. I'm going to lock in on that 7. That should be an official play because I'm about to make it. Although I didn't do it overnight. I'm also locking in on LSU plus 6.5. I'm going to take some money line there as well. LSU's winning that game.
Ooh, that's a wildly exciting take as well. Can you expand on backing LSU against Alabama?
Yeah, LSU's better. LSU is better than Alabama this year. Defensively, they're better. Offensively, they're better. Offensively, they're as good. The national championship in this decade has been the same couple of teams over and over and over again. That's not the way it works over the long term in college football. You have teams that have great years. You have teams that have great situations. It's not going to be Alabama and Clemson every year. It's not. And I don't think it's going to be this year. We've seen the LSU offense work against good defenses. All right, more than once. They didn't put the ball in the end zone against Auburn, but they moved the ball up and down the field in that game. Against Florida, they put the ball in the end zone. So I believe that the LSU offense is capable of giving Alabama's defense some struggles. And when we look at Alabama's season, find me a good offense they faced. Find me a good quarterback they faced. One. Give me a second. I'm just trying to pull up their schedule. There's not much, I'll tell you that. Bama has played so far Duke, New Mexico State, South Carolina, Southern Miss, Ole Miss, A&M, Tennessee, and Arkansas. Ain't no LSU's on that list. The best team they face is A&M. I'm not saying that because they haven't faced anyone that they're bad. I'm saying one team I know is battle-tested. The other team I know isn't so battle-tested. Okay? From a defensive standpoint, Alabama is not what they were. And, we've seen that a couple of times already. And I think that LSU has the passing game to give them all kinds of trouble. And I think LSU has the defense that can hang with Alabama's receivers. And I think that Alabama's going to get upset. I like LSU plus the points, and I like them on the money line.
Oh, that's an exciting take. A very, 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 very exciting take that will give us fodder for the whole week. Question in from D. Summers. Let me pull up the spreads and totals here. I was just on spreads. I was looking, doing a little line shopping myself after hearing that breakdown. With this total here against number 1 ranked LSU, number 2 ranked Alabama, opens at 65. Pinnacle's brought it all the way down to 63. D. Summers said, was 65 too high? Do you agree with this market move?
So these first, I've obviously criticized Alabama's defense. Alabama's got plenty of NFL talent on the defense side of the football. I feel like LSU's going to be able to throw the football against Alabama, and I don't think that LSU's going to shut down Alabama for 4 quarters. So my gut reaction was this game is more likely to be a shootout than a defensive scrum. All right, my gut reaction was over. And then you start thinking about it, and you're like, I just couldn't get there. The markets are pointing in the other direction. And it's not a game where Alabama's going to try to push pace. They want to keep LSU's offense off the field. I worry a little bit about red zone execution for these two squads. And the initial lean towards the over was just a lean. The more I thought about it, I'm like, the play here is the side and not the total. And that's my opinion on the game.
Wow, what an exciting weekend ahead of us. We have more questions coming in. Rich Kemp asking, wanting questions. Just bring your questions in, and I will fire them at Teddy, and that's part of the fun of this show. Questions coming in now, and one is on this UCF spot here. UCF versus Tulsa, which I'm not finding here.
Right at the top of the card, Thursday night game.
Oh, it's a Thursday nighter. That's the why. Okay, and we got to get into the Wednesday nighter. So, why don't we start with tonight, and then I'll get into UCF Tulsa. Why don't we start with tonight? Miami of Ohio up against Ohio. Ohio opening up at 6.5, now 7s. This total opened up at 54.5, now 55, 55.5, or even at 56 at BetOnline. Do you have an angle in Miami of Ohio against Ohio?
I'm not going to make a move on the game. I mean, it's a 2-point game last year. And certainly from a which team has been covering numbers perspective, Ohio's got 2 covers all year. They've been an overvalued commodity. Miami's got 3 in their last 4 contests. They've been an undervalued commodity, and 2 of them have come as dogs. So, my gut reaction was I'm expecting another competitive game, just like the 2 games that we saw last night, and which has me thinking about taking the points as opposed to laying them. Both teams still have Bowling Green and Akron on their schedules. So in terms of bowl, you would think this would be a huge game for bowl eligibility for MAC schools. May not be the case in this one because they both have games that they think that they should be able to win. 2 more games. They think there's a pair of 4-4 squads. But whenever you have 2 4-4 teams in this time of the year, also with bowl eligibility being an issue, or 2 4-win teams, again, taking the points sometimes makes a whole lot of sense. But I've seen this from Solich's teams before. Frank Solich is not a September coach necessarily. His teams, year in, year out, they get better as the season progresses. And we've seen that from Ohio over the last couple of weeks. Back-to-back wins. And I know they didn't get the cover against Kent. They were laying 7.5. They won by 7. But offense that's moving the football, defense that's capable of getting some stops. There may well be some value on the Bobcats down the stretch of the campaign because they've only covered 2-point spreads so far this year, and there isn't any kind of a betting bandwagon on Ohio. So, total-wise, both of these teams have put up some decent defensive numbers, but I'm not a big fan of betting Solich games under. 4-2 the over last 6. It's easier for me to see the offense is cranking here and the defense is shutting everyone down. But as far as a strong opinion, this isn't a game where I have one. Easy pass for me.
An easy pass here with Miami of Ohio against Ohio this evening. Next up, questions are rolling in. The next question is from Handsome C. Says, if I may ask, does Teddy have an opinion on UCF Tulsa Friday night? UCF opening up at -16, now -17 or 17.5 on the board. This total opening up at 70.5, and we have seen a 69 at BetOnline, some 69.5s. UCF Tulsa, you have an angle here?
There's another one that I don't have a strong take on. I'm in action on Thursday night with Temple. I'm in action on Friday night on Oregon State against Washington. This is not what I'm not comfortable backing Tulsa right now. That's a team. They fought so hard in so many games, and they just keep coming up short, and things are going bad. And another loss last week. The Memphis loss, the SMU triple OT loss. There's been some really tough losses for this team, and they've had a hard time bouncing back. They're not deep enough to bounce back. Defensively, a team that was real good early in the season. They declined. Big time. And they're winning turnover battles and still losing games by margin. That worries me for Tulsa. I'm not convinced that on a short week they're going to be able to bring their A game against UCF. So I guess if I had to play it, I'd lay it. But the markets are already there. And it's not like you're getting bargains with UCF at this stage of the equation. There was money to be made with UCF early in the season. All right. Since that 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread start, they've covered again. 1-point spread. The betting bandwagon's been really big. The results haven't been there. They've been. I would rather have the UConn side. I don't want the UConn side though. I don't. Since he's not built to cover point spreads like this, I worry about their focus level in this point spread range. And certainly, Fickle was not amused by the defensive performance, and they gave up 638 yards to East Carolina last week. Since he's not built to cover numbers like this, so And they're not. The offense is not dynamic. This is a pedestrian offense. The defense may show. If I had to play anything in this game, I would look under because I'm not convinced UConn's offense is going to do anything against this defense this week. And since if they get a 3-touchdown lead, they'll hand the ball off 30 times in the second half, and that'll be that. I lean under more than side.
Leaning
but
under.
If I had to play side, it would be UConn. Yeah, since he can't lay this price, and they're not built to lay this price. But yeah, it's hard to get me to the. You can sometimes make money with bottom feeders in the NBA. You can sometimes make money with bottom feeders in the NFL. It's hard to make money with bottom feeders in college football and college hoops. It really is. And UConn, clearly a bottom feeder.
Our guy Reese asking about rotation number 189, 190, Florida International, Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic opening up at -10. This total opening up at 61.5 has dropped to 60.5 or 60. You have a feel for FIU, FAU?
I have absolutely no take on this game. It's a game that I glanced at initially and was like, okay, I don't have a strong feel. I mean, FAU is better than Florida International right now, but it is a rivalry series. And when FIU doesn't turn the ball over, they're fine. It's like I'm not thrilled about laying points with a team with +4 last week and a misleading result against Western Kentucky. We've seen them lose at home before. I don't have a strong take on it. I'm sorry.
All right. We have more questions coming in fast and furious, and this one is an interesting one from Rich Kemp. Says, when do you start pulling from your bankroll for other things? What's the point of betting if you can never use the money, right?
That's an excellent question. That's a fantastic question. And it has a lot to do with the size of your bankroll. It has everything to do with the size of your bankroll. If you have a 3-figure bankroll and you're making $20 bets, you have $500 or whatever, I would never pull from that. That's not how you're going to eat. That's not how you're going to live. That's not, that your goal of a smaller bankroll is just to build it up. And literally, I wouldn't pull anything out of it. If you have a medium-sized bankroll, I guess I shouldn't say that. It depends on your goals for betting. Okay? If your goals for betting is, we're going to start small, we want to get good at it, we want this to be a side hustle, we want this to be a secondary source of income, then if you're making profits and you're not looking to increase your unit size, you pull something out. Absolutely. If you're looking to say, all right, I'm betting on sports because I want to do this long term, all I'm interested in is building bankroll, and I'm not going to pull anything out for anything, well, then if you're good at it, that's how you can get to be build a big bankroll and do this very, very seriously. Anytime you're taking money out of the money, the old expression, it takes money to make money. It takes money to make money. So when you're pulling out of that for your life expenses or to celebrate or to go have a night at the club or to go buy a new car, it's okay to do as long as you're not putting your future bankroll growth in jeopardy. As long as you're not sitting there going, ooh, if I have a losing streak right now, I'm totally screwed. And that's the end. And I'm back to betting $20 or $50 a game again. So a lot of it depends on what other income you have coming in. If you're relying on sports betting for all of your income, you're going to have to, or for a majority of your income, you're going to have to pull out a bankroll. But recognize every time you do that, you're taking away potential future growth.
That's a great answer. That's a very, very interesting question from Rich Kemp and a great answer. Okay, we have 2 more questions before we put a bow on this show. The next question comes from Mr. ESPN. He's talking about rotation number 181, 182, Missouri, Georgia. He says, ask covers about the Georgia game. Georgia opening up at -17. Now there's some 17.5s on the board. This total at either 47 or 47.5, Teddy, Missouri, Georgia.
So I did a fair bit of work on this game yesterday and ended up with nothing. I passed. I'm not taking Missouri on the road against a good defense. Look, Kelly Bryant can't do it. We saw it in the Wyoming game in the opener, okay? They only played 3 road games all year. All 3 losses, all 3 failed to cover. When you lose to Wyoming and they lost that game by 3 touchdowns against the spread, they were laying 21 at Vandy. They lost that game by 4 touchdowns against the spread. And they were laying 9.5 in Kentucky. They lost that game by more than 4 touchdowns against the spread. That's a home road dichotomy. And Bryant is not a QB that I trust against Georgia's defense. So it's Georgia or pass for me to begin with. Georgia's this team, they dominate games, and they're not dominating final scores. Over and over again. Last week against Florida, they dominated that game. And at the end of the game, are they going to cover? It's all sweat with Georgia. They scored 17, 21, and 24 the last 3 ball games. I can't lay this price with them. It feels like they're going to explode against someone. Do I want to trust them to explode against a team off back-to-back losses off a bye when they're off the Florida game? No. I pass.
Yeah, no, that's a great breakdown. And the final question coming from D. Summers. Rotation number 193, 194. 18th ranked Iowa up against 16th ranked Wisconsin. Wisconsin at 9.5. This total low. Very low at 38.5. His question is, would you take the under 38.5? Total scores in Iowa's Big Ten games so far, 30, 13, 29, 46, and 20. Every Wisconsin Big Ten game has gone under 47. Would you take the under 38.5 in Iowa, Wisconsin?
I wouldn't, just because, that's too low for me to bet. I'm not going to talk you out of it. I don't bet college football totals under 40. I won't bet the under in those games. There's just too many plays. Now, I know that Wisconsin's offense has looked pedestrian of late, and I know that Iowa's offense is pedestrian. And I understand that all these games have stayed under. But look at the totals, 58, 50, 47. Not 38, Wisconsin. 48 for, again, in the Purdue game, for Iowa. 43.5. It's just a little bit too low. And the reason I haven't gotten to the window with Iowa in this game yet is because I'm not convinced Iowa is going to score. So I can fully understand, I want to take the under here. I want to take the under. And I'm not going to talk about it, but it's not getting in my pocket. The total is just too low, and a fluky touchdown screws you in a big way when you're talking about totals in the 30s in college football.
Yeah, dangerous number at 38.5. There you have it. There is our show for today. We'll go over some of our looks and my looks in NHL and NBA shortly. But first, thank you so much, Teddy Covers. Follow this man on Twitter, Teddy_Covers. Have a great Wednesday, and can't wait to work with you again tomorrow morning.
I look forward to it, Jimmy. Good luck tonight. Enjoy the games, and we'll do it again tomorrow.